Title: Nothing But a Dream and Two Hands. Daniel clenched his fists as he walked past the bustling bakery on Main Street. The scent of fresh bread filled the air, a scent that reminded him of his mother's tiny kitchen, the place where his dream was born. But dreams didn't belong to people like him. He had no money, no investors, no idea where to start. Just a wish in his heart and an ache in his chest. That evening, he sat on the steps of his grandfather's house, staring at the sunset, lost in thought. "What's on your mind, boy?" his grandfather asked, easing down beside him. Daniel sighed. "I want to open a bakery, Grandpa, but I have nothing. No shop, no big oven, no chance." His grandfather chuckled softly and got up without a word. He walked to the backyard, where an unfinished wall stood, a pile of bricks beside it. Slowly, he picked up a single brick and placed it carefully onto the stack. "Do you know how I built every house in this town, Daniel? Not in a day, not in a week. Just one brick at a time. You don't build a bakery overnight, son. You lay your first brick." Daniel swallowed hard. Could it really be that simple? That night, he didn't sleep. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at his hands. Hands that had kneaded dough 1,000 times before. Hands that maybe, just maybe, could build something bigger. The first brick. The next morning, he gathered what little flour he had and baked 2 loaves in his mother's tiny oven. He wrapped them in cloth, placed them in a basket, and walked to the market. Hours passed. Nobody stopped. His feet ached from standing. His stomach rumbled with hunger. Just as doubt began to creep in, an old woman paused in front of him. "Did you bake this yourself?" she asked, her voice kind but skeptical. He nodded. She broke off a piece and tasted it. Her wrinkled face softened into a smile. "This is the best bread I've had in years. I'll take one." Daniel stared as she placed a few coins into his trembling hand. That night, he held those coins tightly in his palm. They weren't just money, they were proof. Proof that someone believed in him. So, the next morning, he baked 4 loaves, then 6, then 10. Each day, more people came. Some returned for the taste. Others came for his story, the boy who started with nothing but a dream and 2 hands. The breaking point. But success wasn't a straight road. One evening, after a long day at the market, Daniel counted his earnings. It wasn't enough. The oven at home was too small, the ingredients too expensive. "Maybe this is as far as I go," he whispered to himself. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat by the kitchen table, tears slipping down his face. His grandfather found him there in the morning. "Why are you crying, boy?" "Because I'm failing, Grandpa. I'm trying so hard, but it's not enough." His grandfather pulled up a chair and placed a brick in front of him. "Tell me, Daniel, which brick is the most important in a house?" Daniel frowned, confused. "The first? The last?" His grandfather shook his head. "None, and all of them, each one matters. The ones laid when you were excited, and the ones placed when you wanted to give up. Just keep laying bricks, boy. The wall will rise." Daniel wiped his tears. He took a deep breath, and he got back to work. The turning point. A week later, as he packed up at the market, a man approached him. "I own the Bluebell Cafe. My customers keep asking about your bread. Can you supply 20 loaves a week?" Daniel's heart pounded. Yes, I can." That first big order changed everything. With the extra income, he bought a second-hand oven. Then, a small workspace. 2 years later, he stood in front of that same empty storefront, the one he once believed was out of reach. But this time, he didn't just stare. He walked in. He signed the lease. On the grand opening day of Daniel's Bakery, the scent of warm bread filled the air. The line outside stretched down the street. People weren't just coming for the bread. They were coming for the story. At the back of the room, his grandfather stood quietly, watching, his old hands resting on the counter. Daniel walked over, his throat tight with emotion. "I built it, Grandpa." The old man smiled, eyes glistening. "No, boy, you just laid the last brick." Lessons from Daniel's story. Start where you are. Even if you have nothing, take the first step. One step at a time. Don't focus on the entire journey, just the next move. Failure is part of the process. Keep going even when it feels impossible. Every effort matters. The small things you do today shape the big things tomorrow. Believe in your dream. Even if no one else does it first, your effort will inspire others.